When I say that fanboys are the absolute worst thing to happen to film discussion in a long time, I truly mean it. They're such a highly emotional and delusional bunch that they can't process a simple sentence without overreacting and going on the defensive. And this is why we need to protect true artists and filmmakers like Ryan Coogler from them at all cost. And we do that by hopefully keeping him as far away from cape nonsense as humanly possible. And hopefully instead he'll apply his skills to creating something that is a little bit more worthwhile. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So Ryan Coogler's Sinners is still doing incredibly well in its second week, which is great news for everyone who enjoyed the film. In fact, the film is tracking to earn around $35 million domestically this weekend, which would only be about a 27% drop from last week. A great number if you consider the monumental second week drop-offs we've seen recently that absolutely cripple a lot of films' chances of turning a profit. Now, most normal people would see numbers like this and say, what's next for Ryan Coogler? And even though he is signed on to do Black Panther 3, last I heard,
no, don't like that.
We could all hope that his next project is an original film that we could all sink our teeth into creatively. But unfortunately, that's not the way the fanboys' thought process is currently operating. Their first thought is, now that Ryan has a working relationship with Warner Brothers, how soon can we get him to sign up for a DC project? And I think I speak for a lot of people with standards when I say absolutely no one wants to see that. Why would we want Ryan Coogler, coming off one of the biggest success stories of his career, to immediately jump back into making Slop? Now, I know what some of you may be thinking: isn't there a chance that Ryan Coogler could elevate the genre with his talents and once again give us a superhero movie that is worth being excited about? And the answer to that question is maybe. And I say that not as a slight at Ryan or his talents, but just because I have a clear understanding of how these studio-driven projects come about.
Something very familiar about all this.
Making comic book movies in the modern era typically come with certain creative restrictions that someone like Ryan Coogler might not find appealing. Why would he want to be limited by studio involvement again when he could have the freedom he had with Sinners on his next project? I expressed my desire to see Ryan Coogler avoid DC and the comic book movie genre in general in a recent Twitter post, and the reaction to it was predictable. In a response to a post that said, what project could Ryan Coogler direct in the DCU if he was signed, I responded saying hopefully none. He needs to get away from the cape. Well, the fanboys didn't take too kindly to my opinion in typical fanboy fashion. In fact, I had one of them respond to me and say, what, are you afraid he might make something good? No, what I'm afraid of is him wasting his talents and years of his career working on a project that he clearly doesn't have full creative control of. No, I do not have an interest in seeing Ryan Coogler's Static Shock, or whatever other forgettable comic book movie you are fantasy hiring him for. To me, he's better than that, and I especially wouldn't want him involved with the typical dysfunction that we see on display over at WB and DC. Another X account called Comic Book Movie Cringe, who thinks they are the authority on what people can and can't say about cape retweeted my post with the sarcastic response of, does he know? You see, Comic Book Movie Cringe, in their failed attempt at a gotcha moment, apparently forgot the basic fundamentals of the English language.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
At the very least, their reading comprehension is awful, and I would expect nothing less from a fanboy simp hiding behind a Robert Downey Jr. profile picture. This account apparently doesn't know the difference between getaway and stay away. We all know that Ryan Coogler directed Black Panther to much acclaim. He also directed Wakanda Forever to much less acclaim. But knowing this, it kind of reinforces my opinion that he should stay away from cape in the future. considering Wakanda Forever to me was not representative of the talents I know he has, and clearly the result of too many cooks in the kitchen. And the truth is that accounts like comic book movie Cringe do not have the mental capacity to process something like this, because they think that comic book movies are above criticism. It's pretty much the basis of their entire account. And if there's one genre of movies that is clearly not above criticism, it's the comic book movie genre in the modern era. Much to my delight, most of the responses to this post were on my side, and they were pretty much pointing out how comic book movie Cringe has clearly lost the plot and apparently lost the ability to read.
I never learned to read!
Like Thomas Anderson, who said, he said get away. Do you know how to read? Comic book movie YouTube comments said, do you know the meaning of get away? Seriously though, he shouldn't do any DC stuff under James Gunn. Can't imagine Ryan Coogler taking orders from Gunn. We all know that James Gunn likes to give notes to help the creative process along. So imagine someone like Ryan Coogler receiving notes from a vastly inferior filmmaker. That's just not a situation that I think anyone outside of these fanboys want to see. And then we have Mr. Fish that said, they meant he shouldn't go back. Coogler did say one of his favorite parts of making Sinners was that he didn't have as many restrictions as when he was making movies for Disney.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Now maybe Mr. Fish will have a little bit better luck beating this idea home to the fanboys than I have. Because this is the exact same thing that I've been preaching for years, only to be called a hater for it. So real talk, do you consider Ryan Coogler a hater as well? And then we have Scallywag, who simply said, no, he's right. Now listen, this isn't necessarily about who is right and who is wrong in this situation. The bigger issue to me is this account calling someone cringe, when all I really did was share my opinion on this subject, an opinion that apparently a lot of people agree with. What's cringe is an account like this who is attempting to gatekeep the comic book movie genre. And they basically attack anyone who dares criticize it. My suggestion to the nameless, faceless person who runs this account is watch more movies. Watch more movies like Sinners. Do that instead of spending every waking moment of your life defending Slop. If you did that, you might actually have a better understanding of what a good movie actually is. And you might not be so quick to judge fans or artists who value things like creative freedom. So at the end of the day, my point remains. Ryan Coogler, you are too good for this. Please get away from the cape. And I would encourage you instead to make movies for people who actually appreciate what you are capable of.
Y'all be cool. Right on.